Welcome to A Word with Tom Merritt. I'm Tom Merritt, and on this show, I have the pleasure and privilege to sit down with some of the smartest folks in the world to talk about how we think, because there's no way any of us could know everything. So we try to make our own shortcuts, and it's always good to compare notes with each other on how we do that. These kinds of conversations are my favorite. I grew up having those with my grandpa Carl in his front room, my grandma Roxy in her front room, and I got lots of different ways of looking at the world, great conversations, and it was all leading me to this moment right now. Welcome into the front room, the first person on the show who has been in both of those front rooms I just mentioned before, my sister, Meg Sybert.
Hey, yes, absolutely. And I am at work, so I have the phone ringing. Yes, I've spent long conversations in those two front rooms.
Yeah.
So I always like the beginning of the show, fond memories.
Yeah, that was actually one of the nicest things for me well, first of all, that you listened to the show was pretty nice. But that you're like, oh, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Those front rooms were not widely traveled. So you're one of the few people who totally gets what I mean.
Well, one of them wasn't. Grandma Roxy's. That was.
I guess that's true.
There was a lot of traffic through that front room.
Relatively speaking. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the word you picked for the show today was avoidance. Remind me why you wanted to pick that word.
Well, I am a longtime listener of the podcast, so your premise is how we got so much information. How do we sort out the things that the news that we want to pay attention to, or and I just kept coming back to mine's avoidance, because I don't listen to the news. I figure if it's important enough, somebody's going to tell me about it. And that's probably more for to keep my stress level down. Mm-hmm. And the more I thought about it, and actually I probably started this in, I don't know, 2018, when I'm county clerk for my county, and I run the elections, and I don't want to hear anything. I want to remain unbiased, and maybe that's part of it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But I came to that, and then once I came to that conclusion that this is how I'm going to live my life, I found there are more people that are opting out and doing that. So that's why I thought, well, maybe that's a suggestion. Yeah,
no, it's a good one too, because I think a lot of us have done a version of that. For me, it's narrowing the focus because I am worried, possibly because I'm around fewer people than you, that I won't hear about something that I did want to know about or is important to know about. So I really have narrowed it, but I've narrowed it a lot to say, like, I really just want to get the bare basics, what's happening in the entire world, and I don't want to obsess over every little thing out there. But how do you manage the concern of maybe not being as informed as you should be if you're not looking for news? I think that's what a lot of people who haven't done this are like, oh, I wouldn't want to do that.
I guess because I don't have the concern of being uninformed. There's so much information readily available that if I become aware of something, mm-hmm. I can quickly research it and get information on it. I don't have to be the first person, or even in the group of first people, to become aware of something. It's not like it goes away. It isn't like when we were kids, and if you didn't see it at the 6 o'clock news, you had to wait till 10, and then maybe it never showed up again,
you know? Yeah, that's true.
So it's not like information's lost to me.
Where do you end up hearing about things that you do find, oh, that's important, let me figure out what's going on with that?
Well, I mean, I am Grand Central Station in here in my office, so I mean, I do hear a lot that way. Probably more than I want to. But
well, right. I tell people a little bit about, what being a county clerk means then, because I immediately was like, well, of course, people coming in all the time to your office, but a lot of folks may not realize what you're doing there.
Well, I mean, for our office in Illinois, again, every state's different, but we take care of Well, the election was obviously a big thing that we just got, or I'm in the process of wrapping up. We handle all the vital records. We handle all the tax, part of the property tax process, the middle and kind of the back end. We do all the voter registration. I do all the recording of land records in my office. Accounts payable, so we do some accounting functions. I'm the secretary to our board, our county board, so do the minutes and kind of take care of the meeting for them.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I don't, everything.
The list goes on.
Yeah. Marriage license, we issue marriage licenses.
Right.
It's just, we're the happy office. Come to our office.
Well, and I think that's the key, is that I'm sure some of that stuff can be done online, but a lot of it is in person. You have to show up and prove you are who you say you are and fill out the form. Marriage license is a great example of that. And how many people do you have in your office? I mean, because I think a lot of people who live in a city like Los Angeles, they're like, oh, you go to get a marriage license, you wait in line, and there's a staff, and you've only got a few people, so you're more likely to see a lot of people, is where I'm going with
right. That. And in my office is a fishbowl that looks out on my counter. So, I mean, typically I have 3 people. I'm down to 1 person right now, but yeah, I pretty much see everybody who comes in to get a marriage license.
So you're getting people from the government coming in, from the city government coming in to do city government things. You're getting people who are selling property, I'm guessing, or recording sales of property. So professionals, and then you're getting individuals who are like managing their voter registration, getting a marriage license, maybe getting a birth certificate for whatever reason. Is that kind of the breadth of people that come in?
It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense to me, where you could say, well, I don't really need to watch the news. Somebody's going to say something, because even if they're not talking to you, they're talking to each other, right?
Yeah, I do. I did find it interesting. And, the generation of our parents, or in particular, mom and my mother-in-law, both separately have come to the same conclusion, and they were news junkies. They are like, we have to watch, growing up, 5 o'clock news, 6 o'clock news, 10 o'clock news. There was no negotiation on that. You watched the news. And my mother-in-law is the same way. Neither one of them are watching the news now, because it's too stressful for them.
Yeah. I remember, I definitely not a Grandpa Carl. I think maybe Grandma Roxy a couple of times expressing like, oh, I don't want to watch the news anymore. It's too depressing.
But maybe it's an age thing.
So I think there is some of that. As you get older, you're just like, oh, I've seen this all before. I don't
yeah, you realize it's not that important. It's,
But yeah, I don't know that it was at the same level. And certainly not reaching down to people as young as us, right? I think that part's it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. But they also didn't have a 24-hour news cycle.
True. Built-in breaks for that. Yeah.
Right. There was a specific time you got your news, and then you went on with your life. And now we're just, if you want to, you can be inundated.
Yeah. Even if you would turn on KMOX, before cable news, before CNN came along, KMOX radio was the closest in the St. Louis area to 24-hour news, but it wouldn't be new. You would have news at the top of the hour, I think maybe at the half hour.
Right. And then it'd be like the plant guy or.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Or, open line where they're just taking calls, or the game, the Cardinals are playing, football Cardinals, baseball Cardinals, whatever. So yeah, there were some built-in ways to avoid it. And, now that you say that, it reminds me of what I thought was special about the news, because I liked watching the news. Of course, we, like you say, we were we grew up in a house that valued that, but I always valued that national news, feeling like, okay, let me get the important things of the day, because it felt like a special moment when you were getting that, versus now where it's like, well, this isn't anything more special. Like you said, I can access this anytime I want.
Well, in two, it was curated. It was, these are the most important things that happen today. This is what you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of, and I know you do this, it's kind of what you do in the morning is, you know, these are the things that I want to know today or hear about.
Yeah.
It's sort of the same thing. You know, it wasn't, I get tired of breaking news is not breaking news. It's, you know, it's just an attention grabber. And sadly, when there really is breaking news, I'm probably going to ignore it because it's like, oh, sure it is.
Yeah, right.
But then it was like, yes, this is important. And you knew it was really important if they broke into one of your TV shoshows.
Yeah.
Now it's like for anything, you know, if you're watching
one of the 3 TV shows.
Network TV.
Yeah.
It's you need to pay attention to it.
The CBS, ABC, NBC evening news in the United States, they all are still doing that. Here's the most important thing of the day. So you can choose to do that. But even then, it feels like, well, it's just part of a mess. Even though those aren't part of the MSNBC, CNN, Fox News situations, which those are the worst abusers at. It's breaking news.
Right.
A cat sneezed. But the cat was Republican or Democrat. So now we're gonna, yeah. Sometimes I think, well, maybe I should sit down and watch, you know, the on-demand evening news to see what it's like, but I just don't. You know, I do, because it's now not a thing that everyone agrees like, oh, 6 o'clock, you know, time to turn on the news. It's a thing that you have to do. So like you alluded to, I have a routine in the morning. I always look at my RSS feeds that I use to prepare for Daily Tech News Show, and that's going to expose me to some news just because it overlaps. And then I read the BBC app in the morning to be like, okay, what are the most important things? And I listen to the BBC News flash briefing on my Amazon Echo, which actually, interesting enough, because it's the World Service, gives me a slightly different set of stories.
Oh yeah.
And then I feel like, okay, I got my news. I know what the big things in the world are today. And I just kind of let it go from there. However, local news is the one thing I still feel deficient in. I tend to end up getting my local news from Hollywood Reporter or Deadline because I live in Los Angeles. And Deadline, I'm not kidding. Deadline was the best local coverage of pandemic news in Los Angeles, bar none.
That's funny. Wow.
Because it was like, hey, all the people who live in the industry are here and this is important. I think it was Deadline this morning that just gave me an update on the mayoral race vote count in LA, where I was like, oh, that's, yeah, because it's industry. But I still feel like, oh, that is a gap I need to plug, is having a little bit more understanding of what's happening locally.
See, and I admire your desire to do that. Like, I need to do this. I don't have that need.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's because I get it another way without realizing it.
Uh-huh.
You know, I know what's happening in my town.
Sure.
You know,
you're at the heart of what happens in your town, being involved in the local government. So that covers a big swath of it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous of your desire to be informed, but
I'm not doing a very good job of it, so don't be too jealous.
I do. And this is odd. Do you remember when? Is it Al Jazeera?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tried to launch their network and their news network, and I remember we watched it, like their first couple news segments. Probably the most unbiased I had seen in a long time, but I knew that was it just because of the name. It was never going to fly.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, but it's like, why can't we have that? You know, it's just so skewed everywhere. You know, it was, and I know they were on purpose trying to do that for a very specific reason, but it was, I just found that interesting. And I only watched like 1 or 2 and then was like, nah, you know.
Well, there's your answer.
I'm sick of the news.
No, it's interesting. A couple of thoughts on that. One is, Al Jazeera appeared more unbiased, I think, in large part because it wasn't made in the U.S. And like you said, they were intentionally trying to play to that,
Right.
because I noticed that the BBC appears less biased to me, but I will occasionally notice its biases, and they're just different. So they don't
They're just-
bother me.
well,
enough,
that makes
right?
sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
So there's that part of it, but also News Nation, the old WGN is now News Nation and is promoting itself as like, we're interested in the facts, we're interested in the news, we're not going to just, try to do breaking news every time a cat sneezes. So come watch News Nation, and they're doing an interesting job. I've done exactly what you did with Al Jazeera. I watched a couple of newscasts and thought, oh yeah, that's a really interesting way. I like this. And I never went back. And that's the problem.
Right. I know. We say we want something, we don't support it. Yeah. I know.
Or it's just that we're humans, and humans are more interested in being entertained than they are in being informed. And so when you make the news entertaining, make it full of schadenfreude, make it, breaking news, the person you don't like had something bad happen to them, you get more people watching. Like,
or if they had inserted something in the middle of House of Dragons and said, oh, and by the way, this is happening in the world. I go, oh, okay. And then go back to House of Dragons. I'd listen to the news. I mean,
yeah. Well, I think a lot of people, I have contended this for a long time, a lot of people get their news from comedy. So late night talk shows or Saturday Night Live, stuff like that, because that's more enjoyable, and they will reference relevant events.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not sure that's a good way to get your news.
It brings to mind when Donald Trump first became president, and I had followed. Pete Salzo was the photographer for, I think from Nixon all the way through Obama. I mean, I followed him on Instagram, and he would like post something which would be another president doing something presidential, and everybody's like, okay, what did Donald Trump do now? And it's like, I never followed any of that, but it made me go look. It's like, okay, what did he say? What did he do? I don't know. That was the extent of my.
Well, that reminds me of another thing that's one of my pet peeves is I will on Twitter, I follow a very select number of people. And so I only look at the people I follow for the most part. So I don't see a lot of the things that people complain about on Twitter.
Right.
And because of that, sometimes I will only find out about some horrible quote unquote thing because someone who thinks it's horrible is rebroadcasting it. And I will occasionally point out, like, I would never have gotten this message from that person you think is horrible had you not just rebroadcast it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that plays into what we're talking about is people love to be angry about stuff, and then they want to point at it and be like, look at how awful this is, which then spreads that message.
Yeah.
Which you may disagree with them on whether it's awful or not, but they are now spreading the awful message that they thought was awful, which I don't think is what they really intend.
That's not the point. Right?
Yeah. Are there other things besides news that you avoid? Not just that phone call?
I try to avoid all phone calls. No.
Smart.
Good question. Not that I can think of. I mean, exercise sometimes, but
yeah. Right.
Other than that, no. I mean, not consciously anyway. Not making a conscious choice to do it.
So yeah, news. I mean, yeah, we all try to avoid fatty foods. I was meaning something more along the lines of news. There's nothing else.
Yeah, I can't think of anything
that just
comparable.
Isn't that interesting that has become a common refrain? I think people have always said, "Oh, the news, it's just a bunch of bad stuff. Why can't there be good news?" And then when there is good news, they
still watched it.
Yeah, exactly. The reason you can't get good news is because nobody watches it, sadly. And so it's interesting that I feel like that has ramped up. And I don't know if there's evidence of that, or if maybe it's just a feeling. Maybe we are exactly the same level of intolerance of news we always have been. And the reason we're feeling it more is we're just getting older, and older people tend to get tired, like we talked about earlier.
Well, and two, there's more out there, so we filled up quicker.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing is it's harder to avoid the news.
Right.
In fact, your solution isn't really avoidance, is it? Your solution is not seeking it because you can't avoid it. It finds you.
Well, right. I mean, it's on my Apple news feed. Every once in a while I'll click on something. But then okay, that's something I try to avoid. It's like, okay, here's this headline, on my phone. I get the 3 curated headlines. Do I even want to click on it? Because that's informing somebody that I want to see more of the same stuff. And I probably don't, so I really think before I go to any kind of article on anything, not just the news. So
wait, you said Apple News.
Well, it's not Apple News. It's on my phone, and it'll pull in from all over the free stuff. I don't subscribe to Apple.
Right. But are you opening that app, or are you getting notifications? Or?
No, it's when you scroll over on your phone, it gives you
the widget on the
yeah.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, it'll.
Oh yeah, it's just there, and you can remove it.
Right.
But yeah.
But I haven't got to that level of avoidance
yet. You haven't found it. So that's interesting. That is a very different way of using the phone. Why do you, obviously you're not going there for the news. So why are you swiping over to that screen? Is it calendar or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Now I'm going to start using that because you said that, because I forgot it was even there.
Just don't click on anything. You don't want to get 12 other articles about the same thing.
Well, that's a really good one, because I think more and more people are aware of algorithms feeding their choice. I know Eileen does it all the time, where she's like, "Oh, I'm interested in that, but I'm not going to click on it until I log out, because I don't."
Right. Yeah. No.
I don't want it to know it's me, because I'm not sure if I want it to think I like that sort of thing.
Right.
Which is, fouling up the algorithm. A good algorithm would take into account that you're going to click on things you don't like, right? But I think we all think
think so.
We think of a click as a like now, which may or may not be true.
I mean, there should be some time period. Like if you get out in like 5 seconds, it doesn't count.
And it probably is that way, but we don't know. It's all a big black box, right?
Ugh, yeah.
Yeah. I am being tested in these past couple of years by my assertion that as we get more used to technology and this new way of doing things that particularly smartphones have brought, we will get better at it. We will learn the rules of the road, and that a lot of the fears about what social networks and apps and phones are doing to us are similar to the fears that people had of television, that people had of comic books, and we'll get past that. But everybody always says, but this time it's different. And I point to those and say people thought novels were undermining the children of the world.
I know.
At one point, right?
I hope you're right. It's just so much more complex than those things.
And I have to remind myself that it always is. Every time the new thing comes, that new thing is more complex. And every time it's more complex, you think, well, maybe television is just, it's got moving images right in your house, right? Which seems silly now because we're used to it.
Right. No, it's all good. All a good point.
Yeah. I hope this isn't the one time that principle is wrong. That's what I'm saying. All right. Well, we always like to finish these conversations with a little word game. Are you in?
I'm in. This is actually the whole reason I came up with a word, is to play this.
Ah, fantastic. Our first this or that fan. So I take it you're familiar with the rules of the game.
I am.
All right. I want to warn the audience, I went very hyper local with some of these.
None of this will make sense to anyone but you and me.
Verging on in jokes in a couple of cases. Maybe not just for me and Meg, but, people who vacationed in Branson, Missouri in their youth. Here we go. The first one, Fleetwood Mac or Hall & Oates?
Fleetwood Mac.
Okay. I'm trying to remember which albums I got you more often as your birthday presents growing up.
You got me both.
I mean, did.
You did.
Yeah.
Yes. But Hall & Oates that was That's a good second.
It is still. That was what I was going to ask you. Is like Fleetwood Mac more enduring, or do you still like both? Or
I probably listen to more Fleetwood Mac now than Hall & Oates.
It does feel like they're on TikTok. People are using their songs on TikTok and stuff.
Yeah, they're kind of timeless.
Yeah. So. Do you mess around with TikTok at all?
I refuse to do TikTok or Snapchat. I refuse all new social media. That's another avoidance. There we go. We came up with one. Ooh, I'm like, I'm not doing it.
We got it in under the wire. I
quite honestly only do Instagram.
I remember
I have a Facebook account, but
I remember one day recommending an app to you and you just going like, that no more of these apps. I can't do any more of these apps. And I feel like that was the day when you're like, from now on,
I'm a simple person.
Yeah. All right. Rebands or owls?
Oh, rebands.
Okay, so for folks in the audience who don't know, which is all of you, there was a diner.
It's all the same.
There was a diner in Greenville on Route 140. When we were growing up, it was called Rebands, but apparently it'd been called Owls. I never remembered.
It became Owls. Well, Rebands was a chain.
It apparently had been called Owls before it became Rebands. Like, because when it became Owls. When it became Owls, when I was in high school, I remember some people saying, "Oh, it's going back to that." Am I remembering that?
Oh, well, maybe he got a franchise. Maybe he started as Owls, got a franchise with Rebands, and then I actually was just talking about their hamburgers today.
Really?
This morning.
Yeah.
Yes. And the French fries with the grease-soaked salt, that was so delicious.
It was so good. And the barbecue pork sandwiches.
See, I was a hamburger, which is the only place I got a hamburger. Every place else is cheeseburgers, but and tacos.
And the tacos, the Rebands tacos. Yeah. I feel like even though it's the same place, when it became Owls, like they tried to elevate the menu somehow.
Yeah, there were too many choices at that point. So.
Yeah. All right, fast or slow zombies?
I refuse to do zombies.
No zombies.
No zombies.
What if the zombies are like, sorry, no choice. Here we come.
Yeah. No.
You'll just tell them, no, I'm avoiding you.
I'm avoiding you. And they'll just walk by me.
So you don't watch
fast or slow.
You don't watch any zombie stuff?
Not really. No.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, Walking Dead's on my list, but, maybe
all right.
someday.
France or Italy?
Oh, man.
For vacations, obviously.
I can't pick. I guess Italy.
Okay. All right. What pushed it over the edge at the last minute there?
It's warmer.
Yeah. That's it. That's in its favor. They both have good wine.
Both have good wine. Both have good food. My memories of France are having, I had good friends that had a home there. Italy, we stayed in a villa, so I have good memories of both.
Yeah,
but Italy, just because of the food.
Yeah, Italy felt easier to me. France, it felt like you had to be thinking a little more. At any given point.
I don't know if I got that so much. I remember going in to pay for gas and speaking French, very limited and feeling like great about myself. I never took Italian, so I think maybe because I could like stumble through like a 2-year-old and speak French.
It made you feel, yeah.
Right.
That makes sense. Savory or dessert crepes?
Savory.
And why?
Well, again, I could pick just depending on the setting, but I've thought about this question, and even if it were dessert, I'd pick a savory crepe. So I have to say savory.
You pick a savory crepe for dessert?
Probably.
Yeah. Is it just that you don't like sweet stuff as much as savory stuff?
Not so much.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you have a favorite savory crepe?
Anything with mushrooms.
Oh, I should have guessed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I associate you with mushrooms. When people
I
say
am a mushroom.
I don't like mushrooms, I immediately think my sister does. I don't say it to them, but yeah. I like mushrooms too, but yeah.
I even hunt them, so that's how much I love them.
Dogs or cats? You have both.
Yeah, again, can't pick between my children. Can't do it.
I'm tempted to do the tornado is there and you can only grab one. Which one do you grab? But
I have two arms. I'm grabbing everybody.
I was going to say I feel like it's easier to pick up a dog. The cat will be like, "What are you doing?"
Well, honestly, I probably would grab the dogs because the cats can take care of themselves.
Cats are fine. Yeah. All right. Merrimack Caverns or Onondaga?
Oh, Merritt Caverns.
These are caverns on the way to Silver Dollar City in the Ozarks of Missouri.
Yes. Merritt Caverns is actually it's above ground.
Mm-hmm.
Onondaga was like actually a cave and you went underground.
You were
right?
sort of spelunking when you went to Onondaga.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think they closed that one because it's not safe anymore.
Oh, see, that just makes me want to pick it all the more. It's the underdog.
Right?
It's not even there anymore.
I just have good memories of Merrimack Caverns. So.
Yeah. I feel like we went to Merrimack the most often. We may have only gone to Onondaga once.
I think you're right.
And Marble, we went once. Was the other one. Yeah. Lots of caves. It was a big thing. I don't know if it is.
Yeah. Did we ever go to the one where you got to drive around in it?
I don't remember. I remember the postcard showing the car.
Yeah, well, I remember the flyers, and
it's
like we always have to go to the ones we walk around because we're poor.
I don't think it was more expensive to drive through.
Yeah, it probably wasn't. It was probably somewhere else in Missouri.
All right, hot or cold?
Cold.
Really?
Well.
Oh, yeah.
No. Could I pick like medium?
I mean, this is probably good for your position, but you're having a hard time coming down on a side with these.
Well, I can argue both sides. I've got to be nonpartisan. And I probably should say hot because the two things that my husband and son joke about is like I'm easy to get along with unless I'm hungry or I'm cold. So
yeah, okay.
I'm not really that cranky when I'm hot.
Well, I could also use the alternate version of this, which is dry or humid.
Well, oddly, I'd pick dry, but based where I live, I should pick humid.
Well, just so you can get along better because it is humid.
Yes,
you should try to learn to love the humidity. Yeah,
no resistance.
Hot and dry for me, for sure.
Hot and dry.
Yeah, I mean, look where I ended up, right? So
true. Sense. That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't like to be cold either. And the dry humid's not so bad to me when it's hot. I actually like humidity less when it's cold because it's damp and makes it even colder.
Oh yeah. No humidity when it's cold.
Yeah. Well, Meg, this was fun. I'm glad we did this. I bet we'll do it again someday because I know I'm going to come up with another idea or another word to bring you back. Folks, let me know what you think if you've got any word ideas for that. Is there a place where people should go? I mean, usually I'm getting people to like tell them about your website or something like that. But is there?
Well, I mean, if you really want to like. BondCountyIL.gov. That's my website. That's it. I mean, it's the county's website.
Please come spend money on the 10 taxes.
Yeah, I really don't. Again, I avoid social media. So
this is. I just thought of this question because of what you said. Is there a thing you say? Oh, if you're passing by Greenville, stop and do this.
Oh, eat at Mario's.
Yeah. Okay. I figured. Yeah. Mario's Pizza.
Yeah.
Since what? 82?
Oh, 82?
Yeah.
80?
Yeah. Something like that.
I think it's 80.
Maybe it's 80. Yeah.
That's their Instagram thing is Mario's Pizza since 1980 or 19. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that sounds right because it was in the old location when I was doing soccer, which would have been like when I was 10. So, yeah.
Yeah. Before they moved.
All right. Well, thank you, Meg. This was super fun.
It was fun.
Thanks to our producers, Jen Cutter and Anthony Lemos. Thank you for listening to this show and telling your friends about it. You can get an ad-free version of this show with Acast Plus. Click on Access Exclusive Content at awordpodcast.com. And we'll have a word with you next time.